Greetings from Seoul, South Korea. Thanks once again for joining us for the SPL. We got Pearly tonight. I am Valdez. With me is Wolf and our really flattering picture in the bottom right. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. I am, in fact, much more handsome than that picture does show us. Look at this. Check out these teams on Twitter, by the way. They always love to get your support. SKT1 actually has English tweeting going on as well. SC2 MVP here. Their opponents, and the big question today is, will either of these underdog teams be able to take a single game? They're very much underdogs, and this could be a quick night.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they're going to be able to take a single game, Wolf, to be totally honest. And I think the predictions are going to mirror what I'm saying, especially all the other casters. We were all in the group and putting down similar predictions.
Yeah.
There is one guy who went against the grain. You guys will find out a little bit later.
Yeah, well, no spoilers on that one. You might be able to guess who it might have been. Spoiler alert, it wasn't Tasteless. But SKT, the dominant force today. MVP, having a horrible round one, trying to recover here, starting a fresh new round two. And we're going on to these legacy maps, which is, we had some games yesterday. We already saw some exciting Liberator play, Sky, Terran, things of that nature, King Sejong Station, the coolest map of all time, and we're bringing it back. So I'm really happy with these maps, and maybe MVP on these maps that they also have a lot of experience on from previous seasons can sort of, I guess, wipe the slate clean here going into round two.
Yeah, hopefully they can do so. We are going to have Frost for Game 3 on both matchups, so we'll definitely be seeing that map today.
You know how I feel about that map. That's actually, even though it's much better than the current maps of today, the worst map of the old maps.
Thankfully, we brought that over here. But it's great to have you guys join us once again. Another great day at Pro League, regardless of how one-sided it may or may not be, because even though it looks one-sided, upsets do happen. They happen all the time in Pro League. It's best of ones.
That's right. And, we saw this happen 2 seasons ago. Last season it happened a little bit. Although that was the case, this season so far, even in round one, we haven't had that many upsets just yet. It does happen sometimes, but I feel like the difference between these teams has risen over the past year. SKT was the best team in the world. 2 seasons ago, they lost to KT in the finals. That was an upset, okay? They won last season, and this season they're dropping like no maps. They look undefeatable. Their roster just got bigger with Myungshik joining on, Zoun being used as well. MVP, they picked up some new players, or should I say old players. Ryung, Horror joining the team, Forte. These players who historically in the past not done as well as even their current teammates.
Yeah, it's an interesting lineup that MVP has got going on. It didn't work for round one, but nobody had them listed as their favorites coming into the season either. So these guys definitely have a lot of work to do in terms of just playing out the games, getting that experience in Pro League. And going for that, it looks like the maps are actually in different order for this first set. I only have the sheet actually for the next set that we got going on. So we could see both Frost and King Sejong Station, maybe even Overgrowth if we get a crazy upset tonight.
Yeah, that would be awesome to see. Looking at those player lineups that we just had up on screen, I'll go ahead and spoil my predictions. I went for the SKT all kill. I thought they would not drop a single map, but Gumiho's a one player I feel like that could bring it. That's the closest match. So if they can bring it there, get that win for Gumiho, maybe we could see an ace match here. It is possible. It is doable for MVP.
Yeah, it definitely is. Taking a look at our 2 players, Ryung. Ryung has played twice so far, but he's lost both games. Those are his only 2 games in Pro League. Looking to get back to a level that he once was. And soO, undefeated. He hasn't played as much as someone like Innovation has, perhaps, from their team, but still undefeated and looking for another win tonight.
Yeah, they gave him a downwards arrow, I think, or like the slightly downwards arrow in that graphic earlier, which is probably just based on his individual league performances. But I would say with that on a undefeated record he has here in Pro League, as well as just how dominant he's looked in all of his matches, I'd give him an up arrow here.
Yeah, well, let's take a look at the predictions so far. Foreign casters are all 75%. But as you can see across the board, everybody voting for soO here. Not a surprise to me, Wolf.
Yeah, Ryung, a legend in his own time. We'll talk more about that as we get into the game, but has not looked good in over a year and a half now, just compared to these other players.
Yeah, soO One of the best Zergs on his team looking to take a win here in game number 1. Let's jump into that on Frost right now. Down in the bottom right, in the orange, the Zerg player from SK Telecom T1, it is soO.
And over here to the bottom left, in teal for MVP, it is Ryung. Now everyone knows soO has been following contemporary Starcraft 2, but let's talk about Ryung a little bit more. The player who's the underdog here, player who was one of the best Terrans on the team's Slayers for a very, very long time. Once Slayers did disband, he joined Axiom, where he and Total Biscuit's team of awesome players ended up being GSTL champions at the end of GSTL. Then he moved into, kind of playing solo for a while. He bounced between a few teams, practicing on some foreign teams, and now he finds his place back on MVP this year. But it's MVP's worst time in StarCraft 2 by far. And he has some good practice partners to work with for sure. But this guy was once dominant. He has a ton of fans because of this. A lot of people call him the Tuna Terran because his name is Dongwon, which is a famous tuna, name of a famous tuna brand here as well.
I actually didn't know about that, but I know the tuna brand, so that's why I know. Like, oh man.
With this guy as the underdog here, he has so much experience. He's played StarCraft 2 for much longer than soO has, in fact, but he just doesn't have the recent results to back him up. And it's now or never for some of these MVP players, I feel.
Yeah, looking to prove it to himself even and to some of the fans that he can still be on top. Crossed a very big map to start the day on. And wonder how this is going to work out. Both players spawning in the bottom side of the map, so we could possibly see some airplay.
Totally possible. This map is huge. The reason why I was really critical of it back when it was actually in our map pool was because it's so large and it is a 4-player map that if you scout incorrectly, you get such a large disadvantage in certain mirror matchups especially.
Yeah.
But in this matchup, obviously with the Overlord scout pattern coming out for soO, he's going to be able to see this relatively soon. With the prevalency of Reaper builds, Ryung won't be far behind himself.
One of the most memorable games for me on this map was actually when TY did the 2 racks against Classic on this map. That was in Pro League Finals, the grand postseason finals for SKT versus KT, which I think actually secured KT the win.
That's right, it was the final game.
That doesn't happen, a Terran 2-raxing a Protoss on a map this big, but because it was just unscouted for so long, because I think they were at cross spawn, so Classic, it took him forever to go scout it, that it just worked out because he had no defense. He was going for a greedy build himself on a big map. So.
He also, if I remember correctly, kind of panicked a little bit with his control. The bunker got up, and that just loses you games. That kind of build order loss, really sneaky move by TY. It was a great finals. One of my favorite casting memories with you guys by far. Back when the Glade was out here with us.
The Glade. Yep.
All right, well, looking at this game so far, we have a very normal build coming out from both players. Ryung grabbing a starport and a tech lab. Unscouted so far by that Overlord. The Overlord staying on the outskirts of the base instead. Safety siege tank coming out as well. So the tech lab may not necessarily be used on this starport right away. So he's going for that tank, whereas soO is going to go ahead and take that 3rd hatchery. Overlord still lurking nearby.
One thing about this map is interesting because when you spawn at these kinds of locations, you don't want to take your other 3rd base, which is possible, which is to the left of soO's main. You actually want to take it up towards the north of your natural because you just want it to be farther away from the turn. You want to have more time to prepare for any type of attacks that are coming across the map. And, maybe if these guys were at cross spawns, we would see soO take this other 3rd base location that the Reaper's around right now.
Yeah, Ryung is going to be taking that closer 3rd base for the same reason, right? He wants to be closer to the Zerg while he can defend his 3rd base, so he's constantly bouncing back and forth. It looks like we are going to have perhaps a tank evac opening here because that tank lining up with his medevac is going to get picked up here. Now, we've seen players like TY make this work a lot. Ryung is going to try to emulate that success here. This Reaper will likely go down, but the more important story is, when will this tank get seen? soO hasn't seen it yet. Creep is going in that direction. He's going to hit this third base here. soO will see it before that happens. And this is just to do some light pressure. This is not going to be critical damage.
Yeah, just some pressure, you know, as long as your control is decent at all, you can essentially get free damage done. You know, you can drop up here on the high ground, hit the lings, pick it right back up. And essentially what you're doing, you were talking about how it's just light pressure. You're just trying to open up some space on the map so you can get your own third base decently fast.
Tank gonna continue to try to keep the watchtower clean as well, which is always a nice thing to do. It's gonna help Liberators move across the map without being detected. Does get seen by that Overlord. Let's see how quickly soO reacts. A scan goes down as well to see where's the best location this Liberator might be able to find damage. And he's going to go right for this main base behind the lair. There's only one queen here, no spores in position.
Yeah, nicely spotted there by soO. He's going to try to come in here, but he has to be careful. Doesn't want to take one single more hit from that Liberator. Trying to get the nice angle there, and he does, so that's going to force Ryung to move out this Liberator, or at least reposition it here.
Ooh, that Spore may be in range, but he's not, of course, going to be able to hit it before it goes down and morphs. This Siege Tank is actually denying creep spread. That's giving him a little bit of an edge at stopping that, getting to the watchtower. soO did get double upgrades for his Roaches and Ravagers, and he is actually starting to pile up quite a bit of those. So despite the fact that it looked like he might have taken that third base below his main, Ryung is going to take this safer third as he has scouted the Roaches now.
Yeah, there's pretty much only two styles you can go for nowadays in ZVT. It's that Roach Ravager. You get the range upgrades, of course, or you could just go that classic Ling Bling Muta style. It seems like so far soO has been more comfortable using this kind of style, though he isn't bad with his Mutas either. But has decided after practicing for this new old map, or this old new map, or whatever you want to think of Frost as, that Roaches are the answer. So we'll see how he does use them here in this game.
Taking that really far away fourth base. Obviously, if it gets scouted, it can be punished by drop play right now because there's no creep, even not a single tumor going in that direction. So something to be scared of, especially with this Roach comp with no mutas, as you were mentioning. So drop play can be quite powerful here. Ryung is going to go ahead and scan and clear up some of these tumors. He's got 2 medevacs to retreat with, so a nice pickoff. And I gotta say, Ryung playing this early game very, very well.
Yeah, just really solid, safe play. He's not overdoing it, but he's pressuring at the same time. Look at this, the second he sees soO moves out, he immediately pulls from the third base and is just waiting for the attack. Now, you could say maybe he's playing too safe because, you know, he's got 3 tanks, he's got a Liberator, you know, perhaps he could defend here. And he is going to lose a lot of mining time at that third while soO gets his own fourth base up.
Yeah, soO's fourth is nearly done. The vision control that we're seeing from Ryung is really nice because he sees all of these move-outs coming. He knows where these attacks are coming from. But even with this large Bioforce, he can't fight straight up without the support of these Siege Tanks. Nice dodge here on the Corrosive Biles.
Corrosive Biles moving forward, but they actually missed the tanks. The tanks are getting huge amounts of damage done to that Roach Ravager ball. There's still a lot of soO left over, and Ryung is still forced up onto this high ground. Looks like soO now is going to retreat and give Ryung some space finally.
We do see the transition into melee upgrades for soO as well. He gets +2, adding more lings into this composition now will probably transition away from just pure Roach Ravager. Even though that's a style you've seen work into the late game in some cases, you do need to find some damage with it usually in the early parts of the game. He hasn't killed units, he hasn't killed SCVs per se, but he has denied that third base, as you were mentioning before. Yeah. So many Ravagers in this comp. I mean, he's got endless Corrosive Biles.
Looks like Ryung's finally going to drop up towards here, but it looks like it has been spotted by soO immediately at this watchtower. And he's going to leave a ling there. And that's the thing about this map now, with the 2 watchtowers in the middle, you get so much vision control. And currently, soO is in control of that vision. So this fourth base is actually relatively safe. It forces the medevac to go all the way around, as we're seeing that happen right now towards the top of the map, if he wants to get any harass damage done at that fourth.
Yeah, it looks like he's just going to poke up here at this watchtower a little bit. Nothing found there. soO is maxed out. He has been for a while. He's got about 40 army supply more than Ryung. So despite the fact that he's low in workers, he actually is building a bank because he's been maxed for so long. This drop over here is going to kill the queen. And let's see how quickly soO reacts. Just runs the queen away. Continues to attack. Otherwise, though, from both sides.
Coming in from both sides here. Corrosive Biles going down, but missing overall. All the tanks are still alive. This is not going to work. I mean, he's got so much stuff, but he's being shelled by all those tanks in the high ground.
Yeah, and he still hasn't defended his base to the top right either, you know? Looks like Ryung's trying to get a different angle here with some of this bio. He's got so many medevacs here.
Yeah, I feel like he has to move some of his tanks forward closer to that third base. Oh, look at the fourth base.
Yeah.
It never got defended.
Never cleaned up. Rallied away even are these units here. Now it's dead. The queen is dead as well. There's no creep there. And now we find ourselves in a situation where Ryung is 3 base versus 3 base. He has the better comp, arguably. He's only 4 workers down in a TVZ. soO is in some trouble here.
Oh, okay. He's going to remake that fourth base now. I thought maybe he was just.
And look at this rally!
Oh no, he's going to have to remake all of those overlords now. There's no defense for them unless he wants to bring his entire army up for this one drop. It looks like that's exactly what he's going to do, but so many of the overlords are going down anyway.
This is just terrible. I mean, this is not the kind of thing you would ever want to have happen, but it's happening to him after he's down a base. He has no mineral bank. A Zerg player won't worry about losing a chunk of overlords in the late game if he has tons of money to spare, but this is not the case for soO right now. Having to remake those all right now, depleting his bank massively.
Yeah, he's trying to just take the fight in the middle of the map now. And still this drop has not been cleaned up, by the way. It's going to get every single overlord that was up there in the top. And look at how many tanks are now available flying across. 7 tanks and all those medevacs.
7 tanks. He's going to continue to drop. By the way, there are only 3 queens on the map, so no more creep spread. Every queen is dedicated just to injections. There's not going to be that much defense either. If he kills any more of these queens, for example, like with this drop here, it's going to actually start to affect soO's macro. Looks like this drop will just be cleaned up. Ryung is looking elsewhere, but he's scanning across the map, eliminating that creep, taking control of the watchtower, and with all these tanks, soO is going to have to engage perfectly here.
He's going to try to engage now before the tanks are dropped in, but now all the tanks are down. Stimming forward is Ryung. He wants to take this game.
It looks like he may very well be able to do it right here, right now. All the Ravagers are going down. There's still so many medevacs left over here. And soO will remax. A lot of losses on Ryung's side as well. He has those tanks, but he doesn't have much on the ground to save them. A drop continuing to deny 4th base mining here for soO, meanwhile, killing a lot of drones as well.
Yeah, Ryung now down to only 3 tanks. He's not even making any more. He's just trying to stim more and more bio across the map right now and put more pressure on this 3rd base before soO can remax here.
His composition is just better, I feel here, Valdez. Bio versus Ravagers. If you don't get hit by the bile, you just have much more power with the healing. Roaches and Ravagers fire slowly. They don't do a lot of burst damage like a Baneling, so you just get out-healed basically. Their attack speed's too slow. And even though soO has more army supply, he's struggling to engage.
soO's going to come from a lot of different angles now, and there's not enough tanks left over. Only 1 Liberator in the back. He's finally going to be able to push Ryung off of his side of the map.
Looks like that Liberator will be killed by Corrosive Bile. Oh, I spoke too soon. It gets out of that Liberation mode just in time. This base for soO is finally mining. Ryung's about to have +3 attack, +2 for his tanks, and he's just continuing to make tanks right now as his source of AoE.
And look at that, the 4th base with the planetary up and running. There is pretty much nothing soO can do right now because he's still dealing with the harass. He's going to be behind on upgrades, as you were saying. I mean, he's never going to threaten that 4th base with the planetary.
Am I wrong, or does this remind you of a game we might see on this map from Lucira after a failed Roach all-in, where he just can't switch out of Roaches and he's stuck? Yeah, we've got Ravagers here, and a lot of European Zergs I've been watching try to make this comp work in the late game, but there's a Korean Terran who's splitting his units well, having these good bio upgrades. He's going to beat your comp almost every time.
Oh,
he has this huge army again, but can he kill Ryung's?
There's no Ravagers over there now, and with the Liberator, he's denying so much mining at the 4th base. soO's desperately trying to take another base. soO has identified that there is another planetary up and running, but look at this. Ryung wants to stem forward outside the range of his tanks.
He does get hit by a few huge corrosive biles, but as you guys could just see, even 40 army supply down, Ryung just stims, right-click, A-click, clicks. He's like stutter step forwarding into those corrosive biles. If he goes past them, the Roaches just can't compete with that DPS. +3 attack is done, +3 armor is nearly done, and he has 11 medevacs on the map.
Yeah, the medevac's keeping him alive for so long. I like this idea to try to go for this undefended base. It's very hard to stim down the ramp when there's a huge concave of Roaches and Ravagers, just specifically the way this works around this area, the way Frost is designed.
All right, those tanks are stationary here, but he just can't get within range to try to corrosive bile them. He does force a lift on this CC, and a big stim back. +2 for tanks is done. The armor is done as well, and soO is running out of money. His bases are drying up. Ryung, once he lands, is continuing to mine with all those mules. The Army supply is almost even, but again, I have to stress this. I feel Ryung's Army composition is much more powerful right now.
Yeah, soO definitely stuck on this composition. When do you think he's going to have enough gas to go into, infestors, or even enough minerals at this point to go into an infestation pitch, a hive, and then get 3-3 out? It's going to take forever, and he can't really afford it right now. He's only just now getting his 5th base up.
All right, here comes another drop to the north. soO's base is mining. He does have that other base up at the top, and that could get him back into this game with all those minerals.
Yeah, but look at this drop. There's no defense. Again, there's nothing up here, not even a queen.
There's no creep spread either because he doesn't have any queens. He's had 3 queens for the majority of this game after some of his queens got sniped with that early harass. So he's low on larva. He doesn't have any creep spread. So defending these bases, even versus just one simple medevac, is virtually impossible for soO right now. Yeah. That's his only creep. Look at that. It's going to maybe get some roaches on the high ground above that base, but that's about it.
It's definitely something that soO has been skipping on the last couple of times I've seen him play. Even in the macro game against Zess on Saturday at the GSL, it just wasn't the best. Look at this now, this weakened hatchery. This one group of stimmed bio could take it down. He has to focus it down though, and he's got a massive attack at the same time.
This is finally Ryung basically ahead in Army supply. I think for the first time in this game. He has so many siege tanks with this as well. All he needs to do is split versus the bios, and split he will.
That's exactly what's going on. Gross, the bio's coming down, and this is just way too much upgraded bio. Is he actually going to upset soO? This is going to happen, Wolf.
It is happening. We're watching it right here, right now in game number 1. soO is defeated. This game is over. He has no more economy to speak of. He's lost this base. Yeah, the base at the top is still mining, but he doesn't have enough money to remake this expensive army comp that is being countered by just pure bio tank hero with medevac support. This game, it couldn't be more over.
25 roaches coming out to meet their deaths in the face of bio and tanks. Now on the hatchery here in the natural. Scans going down. He's saying, get out of here, man. You don't even have a hive.
Yeah, he's like, what are you even, you got bases to the top of the map? I think soO can't even believe it.
I can't even believe it. How did this happen?
Well, it happened because he just made pure Roach Ravager versus Bio, heavily upgraded, and he didn't defend his harass. He didn't have creep spread. If I look at the results, yeah, I don't believe it, but when I look at this game, he got outplayed. And here comes Ryung. He's going to kill the last of these Ravagers to take his first win here in Pro League. There's nothing else to say.
Game from Ryung. He's been able to do it. I mean, tanks being cleaned up here, but it's 168 supply to 65 at this point. Takes out his only mining base. GG.
And he typed GG in Korean as well. That's a warning, friend. soO is not happy. Ryung playing a great game there. Holding on to those bases, defending the aggression, countering it once he scouted it. Early game control of the watchtower. The push could have caught him off guard. He could have died there or lost so much that soO was able to just finish the game with pure Roach Ravager, but he took no damage because he had that one siege tank drop, controlling the creep, harassing, killing some drones, killing some lings, and then when the attack came, he knew just how to defend it. Not sure if that was a ceremony or not, or if he's really hungry, but he's hungry for more wins, no doubt, after his very first.
He should be pretty happy with himself, defeating soO in a straight-up macro game on Frost, one of the biggest maps we do have in the pool. Maybe he's just been practicing a bit more. I feel like Ryung may have taken, or rather soO may have taken Ryung a little bit too lightly coming into this one.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. That was not a solid game from soO. Yeah, I watched the GSO game you're mentioning as well, looking a bit weaker there. A lot of people not having faith. Some of my good friends, in fact, asking me, like, what's going on with soO these days? I was watching him. He's not looking as powerful as before. This guy was considered to be, like, top 3 Zerg, just behind Biel at the end of last year. And he's not performing.
Even with the 4-0 that he had before this map, I mean, just looking at some of his individual games, individual league games, and the game even today. I mean, it just definitely wasn't his best showing, but it's good for Ryung, I feel like he played a really nice game. Straight up game, very smart, He dealt with the aggression from soO very, very well on a map where it's pretty hard to defend at those positions. And he just ran with it, and he outplayed soO. Even just the one drop at the 4th base that soO just never was able to clean up, just did way too much damage.
Yeah. And, I said this before we started. I tweeted it even. I feel like we're going to have 2 one-sided series today, but already one upset on the scoreboard. And
yeah,